Everyone expects you to have all the answers, but who's asking you how you're doing? Who's helping you think through your challenges? Engineer Your Success Insiders is my private podcast designed specifically for you. It's like having a coach in your corner focused on helping you win at work and at home. One story, one insight, one action that you can take, all wrapped up into real coaching insights that you can use. Join at engineeryoursuccessnow.com/insiders.
Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about living a life that reflects your values and priorities. Welcome to Engineer Your Success, the podcast that helps you lead with intention and live fulfilled.
Welcome to the Engineer Your Success podcast. My name is Dr. James Bryant, and I'm your host for the show. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm joined by Miss Elizabeth, or Lizzie, Jerry Archer. She's the Assistant Vice President for Economic Inclusion at McKinsey. Lizzie has spent over 3 decades building relationships in the architectural, engineering, and construction industries. She has led marketing and client development teams for firms like Turner Construction, Dewberry, and Tishman. She's earned recognition such as the Outstanding Woman of the Year and the Pillar Award and multiple honors within Coronet and the New York and New Jersey area. What makes Lizzie unique is her perspective. She calls herself an infrastructure groupie. She is passionate about helping engineers and builders be seen, valued, and understood, not just for their technical brilliance, but for the impact that they make on their work every day. Lizzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You've described yourself as an infrastructure groupie. So can you tell us what you mean by that?
Sure. I see engineering, design, and construction as a symphony of different pieces. There's so many different types of engineering and processes that it takes a whole band of experts to make a project come to fruition. So given that it's a band, I'm like a band groupie because I really appreciate everything all the different people and pieces bring to the process.
Okay, so you have that appreciation of all of the different parts everyone plays. Why do you think engineers sometimes struggle to get credit for their contributions, not only in their work, but in society at large?
It's interesting because they are well respected. Like when you hear mothers talk, they're like, I hope my kids are either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Those are the mainstays that they want their kids to become. I think the breakdown happens with the general public at large, right? It's how do we get people to want to pay taxes to pay for infrastructure projects? How do we really get people educated so they understand the value that engineers bring? And also like in school, in high school, maybe engineers are seen as nerdy, but guess what? Once they finish college and they're bringing in that money and they've got that industry respect.
One of the things I like to talk about next is what sparked your initial love or interest in architecture and infrastructure?
Yes, it's funny. Even after thinking about this for years, it's only through my conversations with you that made me think about something. My mom is a brainiac, an artist. And so she was a mathematician and she was an artist. And when I was a little girl, I watched her create this geodesic dome covered in stained glass panels. And her mentor was Buckminster Fuller. And we even went to go see him speak in Colorado once. And I didn't realize how much that impacted me. I grew up with a delight in art, respect for structures, and the teamwork required to make something happen. So I think that was a piece of it. I think also where I grew up near the Bay Area in Northern California. So spent a lot of time going over the Golden Gate Bridge and There was a big rainbow tunnel, painted rainbow tunnel that you had to go through before you got to the bridge. And like, I loved all that. And we would drive past the Marine Civic Center that was built by Frank Lloyd Wright. I remember visiting my father and going into the TWA terminal at JFK Airport designed by Bryant. Seeing that project as a young child blew my mind. Having exposure to those amazing experiences. The bridge looked pretty, but also got you across the bay. It was beautiful, functional, and improved our lives. So I think all of that is part of what got this passion going for me.
Okay, so you had that initial spark of passion, the appreciation of art and function, and then you begin to turn that passion towards communication. Let's talk about where the communication and your love for communication come in.
I clearly had this interest in structures and beauty. So I thought architecture school, right? I'm in architecture school and I love watching the teachers present topics, talk weep holes and drainage, riser diagrams. I loved watching it. I loved hearing how it all came together. And I love being in studio and watching my fellow students talk about their projects and design ideas. It just made me so excited. It was so fascinating to me. But I realized I wanted to be in it, but I didn't want to do it. And thank goodness they had this class called Writing for Arts and Architecture. I took that class and excelled. It totally gave me an idea. It was my career moment. And it gave me the idea of how I could be in this industry, love it, tell the story, amplify the experience, and share it with other people.
How has that foundation helped you throughout your career journey?
I've had different roles, similar themes. I did proposals, PR, business development, and client relations. But there were times where, and I'm currently doing this, is the inclusionary work where we make sure that their historically disadvantaged groups are involved in big construction projects in the city and in the region. And so that involves community outreach. It involves labor, making sure that there's women and minority labor involved, and it involves minority, women, veteran-owned businesses are involved. Being inclusionary, helping people, and telling the story have sustained me throughout my career and keep me engaged.
Given the current environment, can you talk about why inclusion is important?
There were centuries of systemic racism and sexism. There's a lot of repair work to bring people in. I understand the political climate, but thankfully I live in a region where at the state level and city level, there is a strong commitment to help small businesses. I remember going to a retirement party for the procurement director at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. I remember talking to him and he was on his way out and he was saying that there's so much work that needs to be done and we need all hands on deck, including small businesses, and everyone is going to be busy. Now, he was telling me this maybe 7 years ago, and he is right. There's so much to do. I have to reach out to MWBE, minority women businesses and veteran-owned businesses to attend an upcoming procurement event. I have to really convince them that they need to come to learn about this new project. We're so busy. All our staff are in the field. Come to fruition. They're busy, but they have to look to the future and constantly work on business development and to always be involved and to continue building relationships because there is still resistance and there is still there are still hurdles to overcome.
From a business perspective, taking initiatives like you're talking about, you're just continuing to build the bench of talent that you're able to tap into to get work done in the future. We've had these discussions and people are saying, "Oh, you're lowering the standards," or to me, you don't necessarily, the standards aren't getting lowered. The pool of resources gets broadened.
I agree with you. And it's funny, here I saw that so much, especially when I've got to work on the Freedom Tower rebuild after 9/11. And I remember the contractors coming in going, this is our work. Why would we give it to other firms? This is our livelihood. And why would we share there? It's funny. They would then go and hire the staff from these firms. And we'd see a lot of poaching going on because guess what? There were a lot of good people working at these smaller firms who had really gotten good at what they do. You have to look at reality. Anytime that you give people access to work, they're going to get better and they're going to be part of the talent pool.
What's your thought about communication and engineers from your purview and what you've been able to see over the years? Often I will hear people say that engineers are not good communicators. My response is engineers are great communicators when talking to other engineers.
Yeah. So a couple of things with engineers, they're very focused, right? So they're like, this is the problem and this is what I'm focusing on. And another thing that they do is because they've been trained how to think very well, they're very rational. There's a process, but the rest of us have not been taught that process. We are not privy to that. So they're assuming that everyone's going, well, because of this, then this happens and this equals this. And of course, but the rest of us are not privy to that thought process. So you have to help us connect the dots. I tell them, talk me through this. Explain it to me what it means. Finish your sentences. Don't assume I know anything. Sometimes they forget to put what they're doing in a broader context. You're building this bridge so folks can go work over there. Otherwise, their commute would have been too long and they can't get back to take their kids from school and coach Little League. What you're doing is improving people's lives, and we need to share that perspective when you're talking.
Do you think lack of perspective or ability to frame our work in those larger community terms has an impact on the industry and its ability to attract and retain the next generation of talent?
Yeah, I do. People view engineers as nerdy, not as cool. And what's happening is the Amazons and Googles and Metas of the world, they're very cool right now. They've got money. They're the hot firms. They're going and they are plucking the engineering graduates and folks who have their engineering license.
I would love to hear your thoughts on actions we can take.
So it's funny, I go to a lot of panel discussion events with the client and big agencies in the city and state who manage construction projects, dormitories, hospitals, housing units, bridges, or whatever. And by the end of their panel discussion, they're all complaining they can't find talent, they can't afford new talent, and they're having a labor crisis. It's not like what is it going to look like in the future? The crisis is now. Like they are having a hard time finding staff, right? And that impacts things. They can't do projects quickly enough. They can't turn things they don't have enough people to review, to tour sites, to inspect, to move things along. And there's programs out there, and I know folks have heard about them, but we really need to push them and embrace and normalize into the process of our industry, like process of our education. And some of those programs are like the ACE Mentor program, which is a national organization. and they take high school students and they're in groups, and local architects, engineers, they meet with them, do these projects to a regional competition, and they present their project. They go to national. They get a sense of what the work is like and how meaningful it is to society. We need this water plant. We need this bridge. We need this sanitation facility. It instills in young people, you know, a sense of heroism that you can't put a dollar value on. So maybe you'd be willing to forego that cushy job at Google if you knew that you were really helping society. There's other programs in New York City like the Salvadori Center. They raise money to educate K through 12 students. The American Institute of Architecture New York chapter, they have a huge gala coming up where their whole fundraising is for programs for K through 12 for this kind of thing. So I know that around the country, maybe even around the world, people are doing this type of thing to inspire, educate young people to come into the profession and put it to good use for the public good.
Put it to good use for the public good and tap into that greater societal contribution by doing something in the construction infrastructure area. That's great.
Yeah.
Now I want to shift gears. What's the biggest leadership challenge you've faced in your career?
Leadership comes with high expectations, too many responsibilities, too little time, and the constant pressure to keep up. If you're feeling stretched thin, you're not alone. At Engineer Your Success, we help leaders take back control so that they can lead with confidence, delegate effectively, and stop running on empty. You don't have to choose between success and sanity. Let's build a leadership plan that works for you. Visit engineeryoursuccessnow.com today, because thriving isn't just for others, it's for you.
Now, I know a lot of women experience something called imposter syndrome. When they start to rise into their career and they're invited into these big boardroom conference rooms, and they might be the only woman or the only person of color, or they might have a disability or something. You are here for a reason. You might not know why, but if you have an idea of something, speak up. Speak up about it. Several engineers I've met, worked with, have had problems. They were criticized for wanting flex time when they started having children. They suffered discrimination. And I talked about it with HR, freaked HR out. But I'm not with those companies anymore, but I'm starting to see that they're hiring diversity leaders for their branches and their companies. And they now have rooms dedicated to breastfeeding. So change is happening. And I think that's great.
What other things are you passionate about you'd like to share with our audience?
So I love motivating engineers. I love letting engineers that know that I see them and that I appreciate them. I get a huge kick out of it. I think other people see that. And so there's groups like the Women Transportation Seminars, a huge national, maybe international organization for women in engineering, transportation engineering. And the local chapters here know that. They often ask me, especially in New Jersey, to come and speak to their chapter, like elevator pitches and networking skills and stuff like that. I love to help engineers talk about what they're doing. Yes, you can have an elevator pitch. I work for this company. I do this. I'm this type of engineer. These are our clients. Keep your elevator pitches really current. I just finished this project. We're winning awards for it. And I'm so proud. And I loved working with share your enthusiasm for what you're doing with people when they ask you about your work. So it's very current and relevant, and they can see your enthusiasm, and enthusiasm is infectious. Sometimes you can win a job over another person or project over another firm because of your enthusiasm and how well you relate with your team members in an interview. No, I have a lot of friends who are on the client side. They love it when the team is working well together. And they're like, we want to work with that type of team. They
Yeah.
know each other. They've worked together before on this type of project. I try to share that joy in the process and how they can share their joy as well.
One of the things that I talk about a lot on the podcast is this whole concept of winning at work and at home. And so I would really love to get your take on what does it mean to win at work and at home to you?
Your loved ones want to see you. And engineering is a lot of work. You're oftentimes doing a project while also working on proposals for the next project. And sometimes you have to come on the weekend. Sometimes you're going to conferences. Sometimes you're just working really late on your existing project. And to balance that, it's not easy. I have 3 boys, and I remember bringing them into the conference room of the engineering firm where I was working at the time. And I put on like Disney movies on the screen, and my boss would take them to the lunchroom. They loved it. You would think they would hate it, but they loved it. It was an adventure for them. They got to meet these cool engineers who came and talked to them for a little bit. So I think if you show up for your family, express your love and support them in what they're doing.
You invited your boys into your situation. You didn't say, hey guys, you are over there. I'm going to be over here. You said, hey, this is what I have to do. Guys know that I love you. I'm going to bring you along. You can sit, you can watch TV. We're going to do some things together. You didn't isolate yourself from them. And I think that's a mistake that we often make when we get to those high pressure points. We typically try to isolate ourselves to save our family or loved ones from stress. But when you invite them in, they can help you. But it's a relief because you're not dealing with the stress that's happening at work and the disappointment that you might feel if you believe you're not showing up there at home. Lizzie, if someone is listening to this episode and they would like to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn. You can either use my full name, Elizabeth Geary Archer, or Lizzie Archer. I have both names synced on there, so should be
So
able to find me.
we'll include a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. And so now, as we wrap this up, I like to give guests the opportunity to flip the script. What's one question you have for me?
You do this all day long. You're just this is your expertise. You're talking to the engineers all the time, right? What is the number one thing you are seeing with them?
Engineers are people too, meaning that the same issues that everyone faces, whether it's someone in the field, someone in the office, someone working at a restaurant or in retail, they're people. They're people. And those same issues tend to bubble up depending on where they are in their careers, whether it is imposter syndrome, whether it is believing that they're not worthy of success, whether it is believing that I am made this way, therefore I can't change, and I don't understand why the whole world doesn't bend to my point of view. So I run into all of those things in helping to support the engineering community.
So here's a question. Looking at with AI and climate change, do you feel like engineers are looking at those things, and are they seeing positive opportunities or are they concerned?
We'll take climate change and the impact that has on society and on design. I think a lot of engineers are taking that into consideration, and it's working its way into the analysis that they perform. It's working its way into the risk management that are in these projects to guard against this 100-year storm that now it doesn't come every 100 years, it comes every 25 years. So I think that is taken into account from an engineering perspective. We're on board. From an AI perspective, AI has been used in infrastructure and engineering for many years. Machine learning, all kinds of things have already been there. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to large language models, there is skepticism from engineers. It's not going to give the right answers if you think of it as a tool where you put stuff in and it's going to spit out just the right answers. I do not think that in the near term that AI itself is going to take away any engineering jobs from a civil engineering perspective. I'm not talking about coding or computer engineering, but civil architectural construction. However, from the consulting perspective, or even from an industry perspective, job will be impacted by another engineer that understands how to leverage AI to help them be more productive. So AI won't do it on its own, but it's the engineer plus AI that will come for your job. If that is the case, I encourage all engineers to begin to getting comfortable with and incorporating AI into how they think.
And no, going beyond simply using AI as a safe business tool, but what about the super intelligence level and possible threat?
I think that's always going to be a threat. We're going to do our best to guard against that, but inevitably some things happen that we don't expect. That is almost always the case when we are applying disruptive innovation, when that disruption is taking place in the public view. Okay. Any other questions?
No, those were interesting.
All right. Lizzie, I'm going to end this podcast episode like I end every podcast episode, and that's this. Many people know what to do. Fewer people know how to do it. And there's a select group of people that follow through, do it, and are living the life of their dreams. And those people, most of the times, are helping other people live the life of their dreams as well. Lizzie, I want to thank you for being part of that select few.
Thank you.